The cop towers over 16-year-old Lily, sneering as tears stream down her flushed cheeks. Officer Dean Walters slams Lily's evidence folder onto the intake desk, photographs and papers scattering across the surface. He picks up her meticulously prepared report form, crumples it into a ball, and tosses it into a nearby trash can with theatrical precision. "Special Forces? Your mom?" Walter's voice booms across the station. "In your dreams, kid." He snatches Lily's backpack, unzips it roughly, and dumps its contents onto the counter. "Maybe Mommy hid her top-secret credentials in here?" Other officers snicker as Lily's personal items spill everywhere. Lily's phone vibrates. The message from Mom reads, "3 minutes out." Her trembling stops. She straightens, eyes hardening with quiet certainty. The station door swings open as a slender woman enters, her calculated movements freezing conversations throughout the room. Earlier that afternoon, Lily Henderson arrives at the police station clutching a manila folder against her chest. Her stolen bicycle transportation to her library job represents 14 months of saved paychecks. She rehearses the facts one final time. Make, model, serial number, location details. Officer Dean Walters watches the teenager approach his desk with poorly concealed irritation. Another entitled kid with a trivial problem. His fingers drum against the rejection letter for his third lieutenant application, hidden in his drawer. "Excuse me, officer. I need to report a stolen bicycle," Lily says, her voice clear and measured. Walters barely glances up. "Fill this out." He slides a form across the counter, already returning to his computer screen. Lily opens her folder, revealing organized documentation. Security camera locations marked on a printed map, the bike's serial number, and time-stamped photos on her phone. "I've prepared everything I thought might help with the investigation." Walters raises an eyebrow. The thoroughness irritates him further, trying to tell him how to do his job. "My mother says proper preparation prevents—" "And what exactly does Mommy do?" Walters interrupts, swiveling his chair to face her fully for the first time. Lily hesitates, recognizing the trap in his tone. "She works for the government. Special Forces." The laugh erupts from Walters before she finishes speaking. "Special Forces? Your mom?" He looks pointedly at Officer Martinez at the next desk. "Hey, we got another one. This kid's mom is G.I. Jane." Martinez snickers, rolling his chair closer. "Does she have a secret handshake?" Lily's cheeks burn as she tries to redirect. "About my bike." "Listen, kid," Walters leans forward. "We deal with real crimes here, not fantasy stories from teenagers who think their mommy is Wonder Woman." The flush spreads from Lily's cheeks to her neck as other officers glance over. She grips her folder tighter, knuckles whitening. What Officer Walters fails to notice is how Lily's eyes methodically catalog every name badge, camera position, and exit with military precision. Lily inhales silently through her nose, a calming technique, and continues methodically. "The theft occurred yesterday at 4:17 p.m. outside the public library." She places a printed security camera still on the counter. "This shows the suspect approaching my bike." Walters glances at the image, then pushes it back toward her. "Blurry guy in a hoodie. Groundbreaking evidence." "If you look here," Lily points, her finger steady, "you can see he's carrying specialized bolt cutters. And here's the serial number documentation showing ownership." Walters sighs dramatically. "Let me explain how this works. Bike thefts are low priority. We'll file your report, but don't expect CSI to dust for fingerprints." "I understand resource limitations," Lily responds, her composure remarkable for her age. "But the bike's value is $1,240, which exceeds the felony theft threshold in this state." Officer Ramirez passes by, pausing at Lily's statement. She studies the teenager with newfound interest before Walter's glare sends her walking. "Well, aren't you a regular little law expert?" Walters leans back in his chair. "Let me guess. Another expensive gift from Super Soldier Mom?" "No, sir. I saved for it from my library job. 14 months of paychecks. Something in her dignity irritates Walters further. Teenagers should be intimidated by police authority, not calmly citing statutes. My mother will be here soon with additional documentation, Lily adds, checking her phone. Walters checks his watch with theatrical annoyance. Oh, I can't wait to meet Rambo Mommy. Does she arrive by helicopter or just parachute through the skylight? Martinez chuckles from his desk. Maybe she'll rappel down from the roof. Lily's phone vibrates. She reads the message, her expression changing almost imperceptibly, a slight straightening of her shoulders, a barely noticeable lift of her chin. She'll be here in approximately 3 minutes, Lily states, her tone neutral but somehow different. On the security monitor behind Walter's desk, a woman in business attire enters the station with the unmistakable controlled movements of specialized training. Walters rises from his desk, theatrical annoyance transforming into cruel entertainment. The teenager's continued composure feels like a challenge to his authority. Listen up, everyone, he announces, voice carrying across the station. We've got a real VIP case here. This young lady's mother is apparently a top-secret government super soldier. Several officers turn toward the commotion. Most return to their work, but Martinez and 2 others drift closer, sensing entertainment. Tell us, what exactly does your mom do in special forces? Walters makes exaggerated air quotes. Kill terrorists with her pinky finger? Defuse bombs while baking cookies? Lily stands perfectly still, folder clutched against her chest. My bicycle report. Does she report directly to the president? Walters continues, speaking over her. Or maybe she's secretly the head of the entire military. That would explain why you're so special that regular police procedures don't apply to you. Walters performs an exaggerated military march in a tight circle, then snaps a theatrical salute. Attention! Top priority bicycle investigation for the daughter of G.I. Jane. Martinez joins in, standing at mock attention. Sir, yes, sir. Should we deploy the helicopter, sir? The gathered officers laugh while others watch uncomfortably. Officer Ramirez frowns from across the room but remains silent. My mother taught me to respect authority figures even when they don't deserve it, Lily says quietly, her composure cracking slightly as her voice wavers. Oh, she did she? Walters leans down, invading her personal space. Listen, Lily Flower, we don't prioritize bike theft reports because some kid claims her mommy is G.I. Jane. We have real crimes to solve. The station grows noticeably quieter. A slender woman in a charcoal business suit stops just inside the entrance, observing the scene with clinical detachment. Lily notices her mother but gives no acknowledgement. Walters, oblivious to the newcomer, continues his performance. Why don't you tell us more about your mom's secret missions? Does she hunt terrorists between soccer practice and baking cookies? He turns to his small audience with theatrical flair. Maybe we should call the Pentagon to expedite this very important bicycle case. The woman approaches soundlessly, stopping a precise distance from Walters. When she speaks, her voice is controlled, quiet, and carries unexpected authority. That won't be necessary, officer. Walters turns, irritated at the interruption. He gives the unassuming woman a dismissive once-over, failing to connect her with the mother he's been mocking. Ma'am, I'm handling an official police matter here, he states firmly. Yes, Diana Henderson replies, her gaze steady and evaluating. I can see exactly how you're handling it. Diana places her government ID on the counter, face down, one finger resting on it with deliberate pressure. Captain Diana Henderson stands motionless, her stillness itself a form of power. Despite her civilian business attire charcoal suit, minimal jewelry something in her bearing communicates unmistakable authority. She doesn't raise her voice or make dramatic gestures. She doesn't need to. I'd like to speak with your commanding officer, Diana states, the request carrying the weight of an order. Walter's cockiness falters momentarily before he recovers. Lieutenant Brooks is busy with important matters, ma'am. I'm handling this case. Your badge number, Diana requests, gaze fixed on Walter's face. Please ensure it's clearly visible. Walters hesitates, then adjusts his badge with obvious reluctance. Diana takes a photo with her phone without explanation. The small audience of officers begins to disperse, suddenly remembering urgent tasks elsewhere. Officer Walters, I'd like a private word with Lieutenant Brooks about departmental conduct toward minors. Her tone remains level, neither aggressive nor apologetic. Lily, please wait by the door. Lily nods once and moves to the designated spot, her posture mirroring her mother's controlled composure. Listen, ma'am, Walters begins, leaning forward with hands spread on the counter. If you're upset about... Diana raises her hand slightly, a subtle gesture that somehow halts his words immediately. Several officers notice the interaction, exchanging glances. Lieutenant Brooks, Diana repeats. Now, please. Walter's phone rings. He answers curtly, listens, then looks toward the back offices. Yes, sir, right away. He hangs up, avoiding eye contact. Lieutenant Brooks will see you. As Walters calls another officer to locate Brooks, Diana steps aside and makes a brief call, her voice low but distinct enough for nearby officers to catch fragments. Confirmed? Behavioral documentation obtained? Yes. Oversight Committee notification protocol? Level 3, observation indicated. The atmosphere in the station shifts perceptibly. Sergeant Rodriguez approaches Walters, speaking under his breath. Who is she? Just some angry mom, Walters mutters, but uncertainty creeps into his voice. Lieutenant Brooks emerges from his office, approaching with professional caution. Diana shows him her ID privately, shielding it from onlookers. Brooks' posture transforms instantly, back straightening, expression sharpening to alert respect. My office, please, Brooks says, leading Diana away. Walters attempts to return to Lily's report with forced professionalism. Let's continue processing your bicycle report, Miss Henderson. I'll wait for my mother, thank you, Lily replies quietly. As Walters shuffles papers at his desk, trying to appear busy, Sergeant Rodriguez approaches him again, expression grim. Dean, tell me you didn't know who that was before you started your little show, Rodriguez whispers urgently. Walters looks up, irritation masking growing concern. What are you talking about? Through the glass walls of Brooks's office, Walters sees the lieutenant's face drain of color as Diana speaks, occasionally glancing directly at Walters. Lieutenant Brooks exits his office with Captain Henderson following precisely 2 steps behind. His typical confident stride appears stiff as he approaches the front desk. Diana remains by the lieutenant's side, her bearing professional rather than triumphant. Officer Ramirez, Brooks calls, his voice unnaturally formal. Please take over Miss Henderson's bicycle theft report. Full documentation, priority processing. Ramirez nods, immediately moving to assist Lily. Walters, conference room, now. Brooks' clipped tone leaves no room for questions. Inside the small conference room, Brooks closes the door and addresses Walters. Captain Henderson has requested body cam and security footage of your entire interaction with her daughter. This is ridiculous, Walters protests, heat rising in his face. It was just some harmless banter with a teenager making outlandish claims. Captain Henderson believes it demonstrates a pattern of conduct unbecoming an officer, particularly toward a minor, Brooks replies carefully, choosing each word with visible precision. Walters glances toward Diana, who observes silently. Her calm fuels his defensiveness. She's just angry because I didn't roll out the red carpet for her kid's bicycle case. We have actual crimes to solve. Diana, who has remained silent, finally speaks. Officer Walters, this isn't about a bicycle. This is about judgment, conduct, and the responsibilities of authority. Something in her measured tone silences Walters more effectively than any shouting could have. Brooks clears his throat. Captain Henderson has requested a formal review of your recent civilian interactions. She's already spoken with Community Relations Officer Diaz, who apparently has received 3 previous complaints about your demeanor. with certain civilians. The reality of the situation begins to crystallize for Walters. This isn't disappearing with a perfunctory apology. He glances through the glass to see Lily being treated with professional courtesy by Officer Ramirez. Am I supposed to treat every entitled teenager who walks in claiming their parent is James Bond like they're filing a homicide report? Walters demands, anger masking his growing unease. You're supposed to treat every civilian with basic professional respect, Brooks answers sharply. That's literally the minimum requirement of your job. Diana places a business card on the table, revealing not military credentials, but her position as Deputy Director of the State Police Oversight Commission. The atmosphere in the precinct transforms as word spreads about Diana's actual position. Officers pass her business card among themselves, hushed conversations breaking out in corners. Walters sits alone in the break room, anger and worry battling for dominance on his face. Sergeant Rodriguez enters, coffee cup in hand, and sits across from Walters. You really stepped in it this time. So she's got a fancy title, Walters mutters, shredding a napkin methodically. Bureaucrats love feeling important. Rodriguez shakes his head. Henderson isn't just some paper pusher. She transitioned to heading the Civilian Oversight Division after 20 years in military intelligence. Word is she specialized in identifying institutional failures in government agencies. Walters scoffs. So she's got connections. Big deal. This isn't about connections. Rodriguez leans forward. Henderson built her reputation by exposing accountability gaps in systems, not individuals. She doesn't target people. She targets the structures that allow certain behaviors to flourish. Through the break room window, Walters watches Diana efficiently providing documentation for Lily's stolen bike case. She's professional with Officer Ramirez, but not demanding special treatment. Several officers notice how she guides Lily through the proper procedure teaching, rather than dominating. Lieutenant Brooks emerges from the evidence room, face grim after reviewing preliminary body cam footage. He pulls Walters aside in the corridor. She's requested your past 3 months of civilian interactions be reviewed for similar behavior patterns, Brooks informs him, voice low. I just watched 10 minutes of that footage, Walters. It doesn't look good. This isn't going away with an apology, Brooks adds when Walters remains silent. Walters' defensiveness hardens into resentment. This is about special treatment. If she wasn't connected, we wouldn't be having this conversation. No. Brooks responds sharply. If you'd done your job professionally, we wouldn't be having this conversation. A department-wide email arrives simultaneously on all officers' computers. The subject line reads, Mandatory Professional Conduct Review Session, all personnel. The sender, State Police Oversight Commission, Deputy Director D. Henderson. Diana receives a call, steps outside to take it, and returns with newfound resolve hardening her expression. The following morning, Walters arrives to find 2 internal affairs officers seated at his desk, methodically reviewing his case files. He freezes in the doorway, coffee halfway to his lips. Officer Walters, the senior IA investigator nods without warmth. We'll need your workspace for approximately 4 hours. Lieutenant Brooks suggested you use Desk 7 in the interim. Rumors circulate through the station in hushed tones. 3 more civilians have apparently come forward with complaints about Walters after a brief mention of the incident on a local news blog. His colleagues maintain professional distance, conversations pausing when he approaches. Diana returns to the station with Lily to sign additional documentation for the bicycle theft report. She moves through the station with quiet authority, senior officers acknowledging her with respectful nods. Walters watches from his temporary desk, resentment building as he witnesses what feels like the systematic dismantling of his reputation. When Diana approaches the front desk, Walters deliberately makes himself busy organizing papers at his temporary station. Through the glass partition, he observes Lieutenant Brooks inviting Diana into his office, where they engage in what appears to be a serious discussion, based on their expressions. During his lunch break, Walters corners Rodriguez in the empty locker room. She's just a glorified bureaucrat using her position to get revenge because I didn't believe her precious daughter, he hisses, slamming his locker shut. Rodriguez shakes his head. This isn't about disbelief. The body cam footage shows public humiliation of a minor, and apparently you've done similar things before. Everyone jokes around with civilians, Walters argues. It builds rapport. There's a difference between friendly banter and what you did, Rodriguez replies before walking away. Returning to his temporary desk, Walters finds an email requiring his presence at a formal departmental review hearing. The scope has expanded beyond the single incident to pattern of civilian interaction concerns. The panel will include representatives from Internal Affairs, Department Leadership, and the Civilian Oversight Board. His stomach drops as he scrolls through the extensive list of required documentation. A local news van pulls up outside the station as Diana exits the building. 1 week later, Walters sits rigidly in a department hearing room, uniform pressed to perfection, a futile armor. The wood-paneled room, typically used for commendation ceremonies, now feels like a courtroom. The panel before him includes Lieutenant Brooks, Internal Affairs Captain Mercer, and 2 Civilian Oversight Board members. Walter's union representative shifts nervously beside him. The door opens precisely at 9 o'clock a.m. Diana Henderson enters last, carrying a slim black portfolio. She wears a tailored navy suit, her movements economical and precise as she takes her seat. Brooks opens the proceedings, his tone carefully neutral. This is an internal review of conduct, not yet a disciplinary hearing. We're here to establish facts and determine appropriate next steps. Walter's representative leans forward. With respect, this seems like an overreaction to a single incident of questionable judgment. Officer Walters has served this department for 15 years. Diana calmly opens her portfolio. This isn't about one incident, she begins, her voice measured. Officer Walters' interaction with my daughter revealed a pattern that warranted investigation. She activates the room's display screen with practiced efficiency. Before we proceed, I should clarify my background. The screen displays Diana's credentials. 20 years in military intelligence, specializing in behavioral assessment and institutional accountability systems, followed by 5 years developing civilian oversight programs for government agencies. Currently heading the state's Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. My commission had already flagged this department for review based on statistical anomalies in civilian complaint patterns, Diana continues. My daughter's experience wasn't unique. What's unique is that I witnessed it personally and have the training to recognize the systemic failures that allow such behavior to persist. The room falls silent as Diana displays a chart showing civilian complaints against Walters significantly higher than the departmental average, particularly from young people, women, and minorities. This isn't about vengeance for my daughter, Diana states, her gaze moving deliberately around the room. This is about a fundamental breach of public trust. She plays a compiled video montage showing Walter's pattern of dismissive, condescending behavior toward certain civilians, always those he perceived as powerless or unimportant, contrasted with his professional demeanor toward those he deemed worthy of respect. Officer Walters selectively enforces respect based on his perception of a civilian's importance or power, Diana explains without emotion. This isn't an isolated personality trait, it's a pattern that undermines the core function of policing. Her presentation shifts to case resolution statistics. Cases Walters deemed unimportant had significantly lower clearance rates, including several bike theft cases with evidence comparable to Lily's that were never properly investigated. When an officer decides certain crimes don't deserve attention because of who reports them, we've fundamentally broken our contract with the public, Diana concludes. The room remains silent as the evidence accumulates. Diana never raises her voice or displays personal anger. Her presentation is methodical and professional, more devastating than any emotional appeal could have been. The true measure of authority isn't how we treat those we fear or respect, Diana states, closing her portfolio with deliberate care. but how we treat those we perceive as having no power over us. Walters stares at the table, the realization dawning that this was never about a mother's revenge. His encounter with Lily was merely the catalyst that exposed a systemic issue she was already investigating. Lieutenant Brooks clears his throat. Given the evidence presented, this panel recommends administrative leave pending further review and mandatory professional conduct training. Walters' representative starts to object, but Walters himself remains silent, the pattern of his behavior finally visible even to him. This isn't about punishing Officer Walters, Diana adds, her tone shifting subtly. It's about addressing the conditions that allow this behavior pattern to develop and persist. Diana reveals a comprehensive departmental reform proposal already prepared, with Walters' case study as just one component of a larger accountability structure. Over the next 2 weeks, the ripple effects of Diana's investigation transform the department. Walters begins administrative leave with mandatory counseling sessions, his case expanding beyond individual conduct to expose departmental practices that enabled the behavior. Lieutenant Brooks sits across from Diana in his office, defensive posture gradually softening as she presents her findings. The wall between them displays statistical analyses highlighting problematic patterns throughout the department. This isn't a punitive exercise, Diana explains, indicating a section of her report. These accountability structures benefit officers as much as civilians. Brooks rubs his temples. You're suggesting a complete overhaul of our civilian interaction protocols. I'm suggesting targeted improvements to systems that are failing your officers, Diana corrects. When civilians don't trust police, officers face increased resistance, decreased cooperation, and higher risk. Her reform proposal includes 4 core components. First, civilian complaint review procedures with mandatory response timelines. Currently, complaints vanish into administrative black holes, Diana explains. This creates the perception that reporting misconduct is pointless. Second, body camera audit protocols focusing on civilian interaction quality. Your current system only reviews footage when incidents escalate to force. That misses the interactions that prevent escalation or cause it. Third, training reforms emphasizing consistent treatment regardless of perceived status. Officers develop unconscious hierarchies of who deserves their full professional attention. This distorts resource allocation and erodes public trust. Finally, community engagement initiatives prioritizing previously underserved neighborhoods. These areas have the lowest reporting rates because residents don't believe they'll be taken seriously. That creates blind spots in your intelligence gathering. Brooks initially approaches these changes with skepticism, but Diana's evidence-based approach proves difficult to dismiss. The comprehensive data reveals patterns invisible at the individual level. How do we implement this without demoralizing the entire department? Brooks asks. By making it collaborative rather than punitive, Diana responds. Officers who understand why these changes matter become your most effective advocates. Meanwhile, Walters sits across from Dr. Patel, the department's psychological counselor, staring at video footage of his interaction with Lily. What do you see when you watch this? Dr. Patel asks. A cop having a bad day, Walters mutters. Watch it again, Dr. Patel suggests. But imagine that's your daughter being spoken to that way. Walter's discomfort grows as session after session forces him to confront his behavior patterns. His initial resentment slowly gives way to uncomfortable self-reflection. Dr. Patel helps him recognize how his frustration over stalled career advancement manifested as contempt toward those he perceived as wasting his time. You developed a triage system, Dr. Patel explains, but you triaged based on social status rather than case severity. The bicycle theft task force created as part of Diana's reforms begins producing unexpected results. Led by Officer Ramirez, the team discovers patterns connecting seemingly isolated incidents, revealing an organized theft operation targeting high-value bicycles near public facilities. Lieutenant Brooks calls a department meeting to share the findings. These minor thefts we've been dismissing, they've led us to a fencing operation moving over $200,000 in stolen property monthly. Several officers who previously dismissed such cases as low priority witness firsthand how addressing these minor crimes creates intelligence that supports major arrests. The task force's success becomes a tangible example of how reformed priorities improve overall effectiveness. Diana ensures Lily remains involved but protected throughout the process. She isn't paraded as a victim or used as a prop, but neither is she excluded from seeing justice in action. Lily participates in a newly formed youth advisory panel, giving feedback on police interactions, where her composed, articulate contributions earn genuine respect. My mother always says systems reveal character, not create it, Lily tells the panel, her confidence growing. Good systems bring out our best. Flawed ones bring out our worst. 3 weeks into his administrative leave, Walters sits before the department review board. The findings acknowledge his pattern of selective enforcement, but also identify contributing factors: inadequate training, excessive caseloads, and leadership's implicit prioritization of certain crimes over others. The board determines Walters will return to duty under probationary status with additional training and regular civilian interaction reviews. Some officers view this as too lenient, others as excessive. Diana advocates for rehabilitation over punishment when possible, while maintaining strict accountability standards. Officer Walters didn't create this problem alone, and punishing him alone won't fix it, she explains to Brooks. The goal is changed behavior within improved systems. The local media initially frames the story as Special Forces mom takes down bully cop, focusing on the dramatic confrontation. Gradually, their coverage shifts to the systemic reforms as measurable improvements become evident. Crime statistics after 6 months show noteworthy changes. Case clearance rates for previously neglected categories increase by 28%. Civilian reporting in underserved neighborhoods rises by 34%. Intelligence gathering improves as community members increasingly view officers as trustworthy resources rather than potential threats. Diana meets with community leaders to ensure the reforms address actual neighborhood concerns rather than theoretical improvements. These discussions reveal additional gaps in service delivery, particularly for non-English speakers and undocumented residents fearful of reporting crimes. These blind spots don't just harm vulnerable communities, Diana explains to Brooks. They create safe havens for criminal activity that eventually impacts everyone. Officer Ramirez, whose leadership of the bicycle theft task force has earned departmental recognition, approaches Diana after a community meeting. I've been with this department 8 years, Ramirez admits. I saw officers like Walters dismissing certain people, but I never spoke up. I just tried to be different in my own work. That's how these patterns persist, Diana responds. Not because of bad officers, but because good ones stay silent. The departmental culture shifts gradually as the reforms demonstrate tangible benefits. Officers initially resistant to increased oversight begin to appreciate how clearer guidelines actually protect them from complaints and misunderstandings. Communities previously hostile to police presence show measured increases in cooperation. 10 months into the reform process, Walters sits in Lieutenant Brooks' office. Performance reviews spread between them. Your civilian interaction metrics have improved significantly, Brooks notes. Dr. Patel's reports indicate genuine progress in your approach. Walters nods, the defensiveness that characterized his early responses notably absent. The bicycle theft ring case was educational, seeing where those leads went when properly followed. The Oversight Commission has approved your return to full duty next month, Brooks continues, with quarterly reviews for the first year. As Walters prepares to leave, Brooks adds, Henderson's reforms weren't about punishing you. They were about fixing a system that was failing everyone, including officers. 6 months later, Walters requests a meeting with Lily and Diana, his first direct contact since the incident. Walters sits across from Diana and Lily in a neutral community center meeting room, the space deliberately chosen for its lack of power dynamics. No badges, no uniforms, just 3 people at a table. Dr. Patel observes quietly from the corner, present as both facilitator and witness. Sunlight streams through vertical blinds, casting parallel lines across the table. Walter's fingers tap nervously against his coffee cup. His typical confident posture has vanished, replaced by something more genuine and more vulnerable. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," he begins, voice steady despite his obvious discomfort. "I've spent months angry at you for ruining my career." Diana remains expressionless, neither accepting nor rejecting his opening. Lily watches with remarkable composure for her age, her gaze analytical rather than emotional. "It took time to realize you didn't ruin anything," Walters continues after the silence stretches. "You just exposed what I was already doing to myself and others." He looks directly at Lily for the first time. "I dismissed you because you were young, female, and reporting a crime I'd decided didn't matter. That wasn't an isolated incident. That was my standard operating procedure." The admission hangs in the air, unadorned and accurate. "The counseling sessions revealed patterns I didn't want to see," Walters explains, addressing Diana now. "I had created categories of people who deserved my full professional attention and those who didn't. I called it prioritizing. It was actually prejudice." Diana nods once, acknowledging his self-assessment without praise. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Walters clarifies. "But I wanted you to know that I'm committed to the reform program, not just to keep my job, but because I finally understand why it matters." He describes how the bicycle theft task force, which he initially ridiculed, uncovered connections between seemingly minor property crimes and sophisticated criminal enterprises. Cases he would have previously dismissed as trivial became the foundation for significant prosecutions. "We arrested a suspect last month who was responsible for over 30 bicycle thefts," Walters explains. "He was working for a larger operation that used the parts for everything from drug distribution to surveillance of potential burglary targets. I would have missed all of that before." Diana speaks for the first time. "Recognition is the first step. Breaking entrenched patterns requires consistent effort." "I know," Walters acknowledges. "That's why I requested quarterly reviews continue, even though they're no longer mandatory. I don't trust myself to recognize when I'm backsliding." He turns to Lily directly, his expression serious. "I owe you an apology. My behavior was unprofessional, demeaning, and completely inappropriate." Lily studies him for a long moment before responding. "I'm not interested in your apology to me personally. What matters is how you treat the next person who walks into that station thinking they don't matter enough to be taken seriously." Her maturity stuns Walters into momentary silence. "Fair enough," he finally responds, genuine respect entering his voice for the first time. The meeting concludes without dramatic reconciliation or emotional catharsis. There are no tearful hugs or profound moments of connection, just 3 people acknowledging a difficult reality and a path forward. As Diana and Lily prepare to leave, Walters asks one final question. "The reforms you implemented, were they already planned before our encounter?" "The framework existed," Diana answers honestly. "Your department was already flagged for statistical anomalies, but specific implementations always adapt to local conditions." Walters nods, understanding the implications. His behavior wasn't exceptional. It was representative of systemic problems already visible in the data. The following week, Walters returns to modified duty with a new assignment: community policing in areas previously underserved by the department. 6 months later, a teenage boy enters the station with a stolen backpack report, approaching Walters' desk with visible apprehension. 1 year after the incident, the police department hosts a community open house showcasing implemented reforms. The station's lobby, transformed from sterile institutional space to community-friendly environment, buzzes with activity. Statistical displays line the walls, charts showing measurable improvements that translate bureaucratic changes into tangible public benefits. Diana Henderson, now recognized statewide as an authority on police accountability structures, observes from near the entrance. She wears no uniform or official identification, yet several officers and community leaders acknowledge her with respectful nods as they pass. Near the center of the room, Lily leads a youth engagement presentation. Her quiet confidence commands attention as she explains the new reporting systems to a group of teenagers. The app lets you submit evidence directly and track your case status in real time, she demonstrates on a large screen. No more wondering if anyone's actually looking at your report. The statistical displays throughout the room tell a compelling story. A 64% increase in civilian satisfaction ratings captured through anonymous post-interaction surveys. A 40% rise in case resolution rates for previously neglected crime categories. A 28% reduction in civilian complaints across all precincts. Significant improvements in crime-solving metrics across all neighborhoods, with previously underserved areas showing the most dramatic gains. Officer Walters, still under modified duty but progressing steadily, staffs a community liaison table near the bicycle registration station. He's not entirely comfortable in this public-facing role, but his effort appears genuine as he explains security measures to concerned parents. Across the room, Sergeant Donovan, a 20-year veteran, mutters to a colleague, "All this hand-holding for bicycle registrations, waste of resources that could go to real crimes." Walters, overhearing, surprises himself by speaking up. "That minor crime approach is how we missed the connection between those bike thefts and the drug distribution network last year." Both officers stare at him, clearly remembering his former attitude. "The Freeman case started with a stolen bicycle report," Walters continues, conviction growing in his voice. "Ended with 17 arrests and dismantling 3 separate criminal operations." Diana approaches Walters' table as the other officers disperse. Their interaction remains appropriately professional, no false camaraderie, but no lingering hostility either. "The Northwest District numbers are impressive," Diana notes, referencing his new assignment area. "Response times down, civilian reporting up." "People report crimes when they believe someone will actually listen," Walters responds, the lesson genuinely integrated into his worldview. Across the room, Lieutenant Brooks, initially the most resistant to Diana's changes, now proudly showcases the department's transformation to visiting officials from neighboring jurisdictions. His previous defensiveness has transformed into measured pride as he explains how improved accountability has enhanced overall effectiveness. "Our clearance rates are up in every category," Brooks explains. "Turns out when you treat all crime reports with professional attention, you get better intelligence across the board." The reforms initiated here have spread to 3 other departments in the state, with Diana's Oversight Commission providing implementation framework and training. What began as one mother's confrontation with a dismissive officer has catalyzed regional change in policing practices. As Diana prepares to leave, she notices a familiar figure entering the station, Lily, now wearing a Police Explorers Program uniform. 18 months after the incident, Diana Henderson stands at a podium in the state capitol's conference center. The audience before her includes law enforcement leadership from throughout the region, policymakers, and community advocates. Her presentation slides display data from multiple departments now implementing her accountability frameworks. "Effective accountability isn't punitive," Diana explains, her voice carrying without strain. "It's clarifying. It shows us where our systems succeed and where they fail." The screen behind her displays before and after metrics across departments. Crime clearance rates, civilian cooperation levels, officer job satisfaction scores, all showing measurable improvements. "When we align our systems with our stated values, everyone benefits," she continues. "Officers gain clearer guidelines and better intelligence. Communities receive more consistent service, and the gap between policy and practice narrows." In the audience sits Officer Walters, recently restored to full duty status after completing all reform program requirements. He's accompanied by Lieutenant Brooks, now a departmental training coordinator, incorporating Diana's accountability models into officer development programs. Both men take notes, their former resistance replaced by professional engagement. After the presentation, attendees network in small groups throughout the conference hall. Walters approaches Diana as she gathers her materials, their first interaction outside a formal setting. "Your presentation was compelling," he begins, "professional rather than personal." Diana acknowledges him with a nod, neither warm nor cold. "Your daughter," Walters continues somewhat awkwardly. "I heard she joined the Police Explorers program." "She did," Diana confirms. "She wants to work in community relations and juvenile justice reform." Bye. The significance hangs between them, unspoken but clear. That day in the station when Walters publicly humiliated Lily could have taught her that authority figures couldn't be trusted. Instead, it showed her that systems can change when people hold them accountable. "That's the more important lesson," Diana states, as if reading his thoughts. They part with professional nods, their interaction no longer defined by conflict, but by mutual recognition of progress. Neither friends nor enemies, simply people who participated in necessary change. The reforms continue expanding beyond their original scope. Lily's stolen bicycle case, properly investigated, led to the arrest of 3 people connected to a larger theft operation, which in turn revealed intelligence about drug distribution networks. The department's new approach to minor crimes has significantly improved community trust metrics and intelligence gathering. Diana continues developing accountability structures for government agencies beyond law enforcement. Her military background provides unique insight into institutional reform, applying lessons from high-stakes environments to civilian systems. School districts, social services, and municipal governments have requested similar programs, recognizing the universal principles at work. Walters still struggles occasionally with old habits, catching himself making snap judgments about who deserves his full professional attention. The difference now is his awareness. He recognizes these moments and corrects course. His experience has made him an unexpectedly effective advocate for change within the department, particularly with resistant veteran officers who respect his former hardline stance. The final scene shows Lily addressing a youth police advisory board, her confidence and clarity remarkable for someone her age. "Systems reveal character rather than create it," she explains to the attentive group. "The right structures bring out our best while flawed ones bring out our worst. That's why accountability matters. It shows us who we really are and who we can be." True authority isn't measured by how we treat those we fear, but by how we treat those we think can't fight back. If you found today's story powerful, don't keep it to yourself. Give this video a thumbs up right now to help more people see how accountability transforms broken systems. That quick click makes a huge difference in spreading this important message. We at PAP Stories believe in the power of narratives that show real-world justice unfolding, not just fantasy revenge, but the complicated, meaningful change that comes from standing up to broken systems. Diana Henderson's approach focused on lasting transformation rather than temporary satisfaction, showing how true reform requires both personal accountability and structural change. What started as a mother defending her humiliated daughter evolved into a blueprint for institutional improvement. This journey from personal confrontation to systemic change represents exactly what our channel stands for. Stories that satisfy our desire for justice while showing realistic paths to meaningful reform. New to PAP Stories? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly uploads. Our community is growing rapidly because we deliver what others don't. Justice narratives that feel both emotionally satisfying and genuinely possible.